The sun not quite set, the sky a powder blue. And Her Majesty is accompanied by the pageant master Bruno Peake, who's organised the lighting of the 3,000 beacons around the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth for this very special Platinum Jubilee. And we see now the Commonwealth Nations Globe. Made of silver, gold, diamonds and platinum. And this represents the 4 Jubilees of Her Majesty's reign.
I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes. For too many years, it's been too easy for people to come here, slip into the shadow economy and remain here illegally. Because, frankly, we've been squeamish about saying things that are clearly true. It's not just that it's not compassionate left-wing politics to rely on labour that exploits foreign workers and undercuts fair wages, but the simple fact that every nation needs to have control over its borders.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, we could be we're being tracked every day anyway, through the use of our mobile phones. I suppose what I think is, some people complain about immigration. Some people complain about people complaining about immigration. You know, we all need to do whatever we can to support the government to manage immigration, and identity cards are a way of doing that. It's something people have been calling for a while, and I think it needs to be thought through. I was surprised at the announcement yesterday, which did seem to come out of the blue. I think people need to be prepared for this, but I think ultimately it's the right thing to do.
I just don't see the point of not having them, because we have ID all the time with, you know, driving licenses, often carry our passports around. So yeah, I don't have a problem with them.
I mean, I think there are civil liberty concerns about it. I'm kind of worried about how that will be enforced, what people will be forced to choose. I wonder how effective it will be about actually managing it, and I think in the current climate, I think it puts emphasis on the experience of kind of asylum seekers and immigrants and migrants to this country, when often they're just trying to live life and do things and get on like we all are. So I'm not in support of it based on what I've seen so far.
I think in principle it's a good idea. I think the idea of the ID card what is in principle a very good idea. I'm hugely concerned about the whole push towards AI and digital because, of course, you know, we know that there are dangers with holding an enormous amount of people's information digitally. It gets lost, it gets taken, it gets used. We don't know what happens with it, and I think it comes with a huge number of pitfalls. I think it needs to be looked at very, very carefully because I think there are huge implications. I think there are particular bonuses to it, but I think there are huge implications ethically as well.
Well, we had them. I had one. I mean, I had one in the 50s. So it didn't cause, I was only a child obviously then, but it didn't cause any bother then.
No, I don't agree with anything Starmer does.
Why not?
Because he's no good at his job.
Why are you against the ID cards?
Well, I don't think anything he does is any good.
Probably not the best of ideas. Because, like, with anything digital, everything can be changed, so... Yeah, there's... Like, you look at the way things get hacked, and it's bad enough you can get fake IDs as it is. And with everything online, it just makes things a bit more... less human. Because you don't get the whole thing of, like, you're interacting with someone, instead you're interacting with a machine, so...
I rise in support of the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act. This would prohibit unelected bureaucrats at the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency that would destroy Americans' right to financial privacy. CBDCs are a digital form of a sovereign currency designed and issued by the federal government and recorded on a ledger controlled by the federal government. In other words, if a political enemy of the deep state or, say, a Democrat regime says or does something that is not approved, the government could prohibit them from using their digital government-controlled financial assets or simply take them away. We're talking about Americans' money. Never forget, in the past few years, we just lived through a time, and Americans are very aware of it, where the government forced social media to censor Americans for their statements about the 2020 election and unconstitutional COVID lockdowns and violations of Americans' medical freedom, forcing them to take an experimental vaccine in order to work, go to school, shop, go to restaurants, and live. Government tracking Americans on keywords like MAGA, Trump, or Americans that care about their Second Amendment rights has also been something that has happened in the past few years and is still happening. The very idea of our government controlling our money with the ability to turn it off whenever they see fit is terrifying. I support this bill and urge my colleagues to support it.
First of all praise to the Father Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakadash. Shabbat Shalom to all the brothers and sisters in recognition to observing this day for worshiping the Most High. Sundown this evening to sundown tomorrow evening, my people. Let's get some rest, worship, and praises into the Father in Yahweh Shai's name, because it is a commandment throughout all of our dwellings. And he's more than worthy of such. He is the omnipotent God of gods, the only God that's going to get us out of what we are facing and what's coming our way. Okay, many people have already partaken of this mark. Okay, they don't understand that, but be that it is, that's what it was all about. With Queen Elizabeth, before she left, probably about 3 years ago, they had her go through and do this ritual. We just watched her with this 4-year Jubilees thing. You know what I'm saying? Basically. But if you notice, those lights that she lit looked a lot like the DNA strand that led to the so-called tree of life. And it had where the trunk goes all the way up, twisted like DNA, okay? Like DNA. And like I said, that was after a major event that took place back in 2020. You see, and in 2023, when it was basically completed, that's when she lit the so-called 4 Jubilee thing. You know what I mean? It's a celebration of how long or whatever she's ruled. But that was actually a ritual, to me, in my opinion, basically showing, well, this part is completed. And that was altering DNA. All right? Pretty much what Marjorie Green Taylor had, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that is, was speaking about. You know, what they did as far as that went. Now they're talking about the CD whatever, which I look at basically as the other half of the mark, which will make a whole completion right here. Now, if you can see the image of Satan, himself, standing before his worshipers, his children, completing his mission. This right here. Now, like I said, when you remember those lights that she lit, looked a whole lot like this DNA strand. You see what I mean? And this is what's coming next, people. This RFID chip merged with DNA for the completion of monetary means. The DNA has already been attacked, and for a lot of people, it's already been marked. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Now, what they're gonna try to do, what they're gonna do with a lot of people, you saw what they were saying in Britain, and a lot of people thought that was a good idea. Probably about, out of 3 or 4 people, you know, you had 2 other ones say that, not a good idea, okay? But all the rest of them that they interviewed said it was a good idea. So, we already know what's going to be coming in. But to get into the Father's Word, we're going to start right here, okay? In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11. And it reads, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." Now, the unfruitful works of darkness is what the enemy is setting out to do to the people of this earth, and mainly the people of the book, Israel itself, which is us. You got to reprove this right here. You can't have any fellowship right here. You have to deny Satan's bargains right here, okay? And that's basically what it boils down to. Now, here in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, it reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Okay? As far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, when the Queen Elizabeth pressed that little thing and lit the DNA strand that led to the so-called tree of life, that was spiritual wickedness in high places. They are the rulers of the darkness of this world. They are. It goes back just like this right here. You see that? Here they go right here. And this is their mission. You see, basically to accomplish what this one right here wants to achieve. You see, because he wants to take everybody with him where he's headed. Okay? And that's basically what it boils down to, because he's not going to win. Okay? Now, what I want to say is this, which is going to be the title of this lesson right here. The hour of temptation is near. Okay? And that's just what it is, people. The hour of temptation is near. But here's what we got to do here in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. "Moreover, my brethren, I will not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat." Now, the spiritual meat is the word right here, okay? It's the bread, you see, and it's the water, the living water is the Hamashiach himself. You partake of that water right there, you'll never thirst, okay? Verse 4, "And did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Hamashiach. Okay? But with many of them, Yahweh was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wickedness. Okay? Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed and fell in one day 23,000. Neither let us tempt Hamashiach, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Okay? Fornication is basically when you lust after things and go after things and partake of these things that weren't meant for you to partake of. You see, fornication pretty much believe that if you having sex, while not being married. Fornication has a lot to do with what I just said. Also, fornication is actually doing abominable deeds, like bestiality, for example. That would be fornication, things like that. You will get destroyed, for doing these things. Fornication is going to be receiving the mark of the beast, okay? Putting it that plain. That's what it boils down to. Now, here, verse 10, it reads, neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer. See, it's always about destruction, okay? Now, all these things happen unto them for an example, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Verse 13, right here. There have no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But Yahweh is faithful, whom will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Wherefore, my brethren, my dearly beloved, that is, flee from idolatry. To take the mark is going to be a very, very tempting thing to do. The mark is idolatry because, as we heard them say, you're not going to be able to buy, sell, or trade. Okay, and that's temptation right there. And you're going to say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to have to take it. No, you don't. Because the Most High said right here that he, if you're faithful, that he will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So he's going to make another way for you. That's what this all means right here. You cannot take that mark. You cannot. Hopefully you don't already have the initial one, which is the attack of the DNA. Okay? Revelations, let me see here. 13, verse 11. And we're going to take this down to, let's see here, 18, okay? This is what it boils down to, people. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he had spake, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Okay? The first deadly wound was the first collapse of Rome. But it's healed now, and Rome is still in power. Okay? That was the first beast. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay? And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. I'm gonna make y'all understand something. DNA is in basically your right hand, and it's your forehead is all over your body. Okay, so whether you receive, wherever you receive this mark, is going to be part of your DNA. Okay, and that's just what it boils down to. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, which comes down to 666. Okay, we've covered this before for those of you that's been riding with us for a while, but nevertheless, we always have to, do it again, because you got people still that's coming on board that don't know. Okay, here in Revelations 14, verse 9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image. And whosoever receiveth the mark of his name, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahweh Shai. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, right blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. So your works always follow you. You see what I mean? And that has a lot to do with your salvation as well, And I looked and beheld a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And it is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came to the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud voice to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of Yahweh. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horse's bridle, by the space 1,600 furlongs. See, this place is getting destroyed, people. And you don't want to be destroyed with it. You see, Revelation 18, and it just goes into right here, verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornications. Okay, remember what we said about fornications. And that's basically fooling around with abominable things, devils or what have you. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and her and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice come from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heavens, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. Okay? Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled her to double, was in the cup, in the cup which she hath filled to her double. Okay? Now, with all that's being said, we're just gonna go over here. This place getting destroyed. So it ain't gonna make no difference about you taking no mark to try to stay alive. You see what I mean? And worship this beast. This place getting destroyed. Okay? Revelations 3:10. Here's the deal though. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. If you take that mark, your crown is taken. The man, they have taken your crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him my new name. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the churches. Okay? So you see, you cannot take this right here. You can't take this. I'm telling you, this is what this is all about. Don't be fooled. Let no man take your crown. If you take this right here, well, you're going to reap, destruction, what the Most High is going to come here and do. And that's just what it is. That's all I got on this lesson, people. I hope I said something to stimulate your spiritual growth, and I hope you found the lesson edifying. All praise to the Father Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. People, please remember to live your life as though we're being watched, simply because we are. This is James, and I'm out. Peace.